final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Well, Kent's Movie Club. It's Kent's Movie Club. Kent's Movie Club. It's Kent's Movie Club.
I keep forgetting. I think we're on video with Kent Wogamon of the Lincoln Journal-Star in the lower square. Hello, Kent.
Hey, Kent.
Hey there.
How's things?
Things are okay. I guess I won't be covering any fine Nebraska basketball for a while. It won't be till February 3rd that they get there. What would it be? 24th Big Ten loss in a row?
I'm sure you're crushed.
Yeah, that would be almost 13 months since the last Big Ten win. Yeah.
I kind of don't think they're going to win at Michigan State. That'd just be a guess.
Well, we're not here to talk about Nebraska.
Thank God.
Thank God.
We are here to talk about the movies. We'll get to Josh's selection in just a moment. I did want to mention this. So the next Bond film, No Time to Die, was scheduled to come out last April. Of course, we had a pandemic, so no such luck
People,
there.
don't forget that.
They
kind
then
of a horribly titled movie.
Yeah, maybe
well, if you
rename
think
it.
about it, a lot of the Bond films
long
had
time to die.
had like die in the title.
Yeah,
you know?
but the fact that it is taking a long time and that there's quite a bit of death involved inside of that time period.
Mhm.
Then they were supposed to move it to this April, but now they have announced it won't be coming out until the fall of 2021. And Kent, we've talked, obviously HBO Max has the deal with Warner Pictures. They're doing some first-time releases simultaneously on streaming and in the theaters. But obviously, the folks behind this do not, they really want this to be out in the theaters. Do you think this will be the first of many of these big budget films that are going to be eventually pushed back?
Absolutely. I think this is the canary in the coal mine that is telling you that the movie studios, not the theaters, but the studios, don't think people will be coming back to theaters until the fall, and they may be really right about that. I think if you want to start talking all the percentages of the vaccine rollout and all of that, let's just say we get to 50% by the 1st of May, which might be possible, right? That's still, then you've got to build in the trust of people that want to come back out. So then you're talking maybe middle of the summer. And the further complicating issue is California is still completely shut down and New York is primarily shut down. And they have said they will not release those kind of pictures until they can show them in those two giant markets, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of that is going to lead to some pushback. And my guess, and I haven't talked to anybody yet, and by next week I should have a better handle on this. My guess is 4th of July might be the time you start seeing a few big pictures come out. That's just a guess.
Kent, speaking on having a handle on things, have you been able to get any idea on how many movies are just kind of waiting right now? Like movies, I know there have been, there's the Black Widow movie, there's this. Like, how many movies are just going to be released? Because they're obviously still filming stuff right now too. So I guess I'm wondering, in this long rambling question, like, there's a lot of stuff that eventually is going to come out. How do you think that's all going to work?
Well, you're going to have a train wreck is what you're going to have, because you have most of last year's movies, right? The movies shut down in March.
Mm-hmm.
Of the Tenet was really the only big picture that came out. And then here at the end of the year, you got some of them that moved to streaming. and the Wonder Woman movie. So there are probably 15, 20, 30 movies from 2020 that haven't come out yet. Then you have the entire slate of 2021 movies that were made and completed. And if they're not complete, they certainly will be by the fall. So you got that whole bunch. Plus, then you have the movies that they're finishing up, not making and finishing up now, design that were aimed at coming out a year from now. Basically, a movie production ends and it takes them about a year to get to the screen, right? Because of post and then, scheduling, distribution, all of that. So it's about a year between the time the filming of a movie ends and the time that it average gets to the screen. So you're going to have, you take a shot at a number, 150 or so movies in the bigger movies in the pipeline. That's 3 a week. You're not going to see 3 big movies a week come out every week because you can't get your head above water that way.
Right.
So
they have so much money they're going to spend.
Yeah. And some time.
So I think you're going to see some interesting decisions have to be made. You might see some movies go entirely to streaming. You might see some get kicked back even further, right? Some that don't have, they're going to try not to move, say, a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie too much, but some that don't have that, built-in sequel-driven audience might get kicked even farther down the road. So you might very easily see a movie that they had thought would play in, say, September of this year, play in September of 2022. I think that would be very possible. We're not going to know exactly how that works out until I think in the summer, but I think you're going to see some real interesting things happen as far as the number of movies that come out as well. Because in the old days, like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there would be 3 and 4 movies released on a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember weeks where I had to write 6 movie reviews.
Whew.
Okay. Nowadays, we might get 2, maybe 3 at the most, and only one of them is a quote big movie.
Right.
I think you're going to have to see more of okay, here's a weekend that there's no Star Wars movie being released, so 4 of these medium-sized movies going to come out on the same weekend, something like that.
Well, let's get to the movies club selection for this week. Now, Kent, we've had an ongoing bit on this show.
It's a bit. Thank you, John. It is a bit. It's a very funny joke. Ha, ha, ha.
Josh, at one point on this program, decided that he thought being a cult leader would be a cool thing.
Cool?
Yes.
What I said?
Yeah.
Specifically a murderous cult.
Right.
Oh, see, now that's where the bit comes in.
And so when I watched the invitation last night and I realized, a few minutes in that, there might be some cult-like things going on in this film, I thought that Josh did this on purpose. He claims.
I did not.
He claims he had no idea that there was a cult at the heart of all of this. I believe he is lying. I believe he is looking at this film as a training exercise. So, Josh, with that, let's talk about The Invitation, which is a horror movie.
Yeah, so, Stabs, come on now. Be sure to take a screenshot of it because that's pretty funny. So, I had seen the trailer for this. It's funny, Ken, I always felt like I saw it at the Alamo whenever I would go there a handful of years ago, and it looked interesting enough. So, the basic premise of this is, weirdly enough, the ex-husband is invited to a dinner party with the ex-wife and her current husband.
And her new husband, yeah.
And a bunch of other people are involved as well, and things go off the rails.
Just a giant group of friends.
And so you're kind of trying to figure out, there's like the balance of, is he going insane or is he right? Is something actually going on? Because he arrives there and there's a woman standing with no pants on and just a shirt. And so immediately they're like, okay, this is weird. What's happening at this place? and kind of everything kind of goes off the rails. And there's flashbacks to his life, and kind of what led to the end of his and his ex-wife's
Some
marriage.
kind of puzzle pieces that they give you throughout. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's the basic premise before you kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the end of the movie.
Yeah, the reason why the couple got divorced was they had a son, they lost the son, and then both
Son died.
The son died.
Yeah.
And then the wife at one point tried to commit suicide.
Yes.
They went their separate ways, and now she's gotten quote unquote better.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He shows up, and it's odd because she seems very okay, and she's like, hugging, and they're playing like this weird game of eventually like a truth or dare type thing.
Yeah.
Then they also invite these other people, including, and I can't remember the name of the bald guy, but the thing that I always think
Pruitt, I think.
I love
Or
that
something
guy
goofy.
in Zodiac.
Yeah.
He's in Zodiac, and he plays a character that some think was the actual Zodiac killer. And so immediately when that guy showed up, I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be a creeper. And sure enough, he was indeed.
He's a great
yeah.
character actor.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of good stuff.
I thought, finishing up down my soliloquy, Kent, I loved the push and pull of, is he going insane versus what in the world is actually happening? Because as the movie goes on, it's only an hour and 40 minutes. We get pretty far in before stuff like truly goes in an area of, spoiler alert, he's right. And I thought that balance, in a way, I thought that it was really good that it lasted that long. I guess my only complaint was I wish that there would have been more time at the end to maybe flesh things out just a little bit more.
Yeah, there's a lot of false starts.
Yeah.
In that, there are things that lead both you and he into thinking, okay,
he is nuts.
There's bad stuff going on, and then there's an explanation. For example, there's one person who shows up at the dinner party late, but he gets a voicemail from the guy saying, "Hey, I'm here at the residence earlier."
Yeah.
And he realizes, where is this guy? Where's Mark? And he's basically thinking that Mark has been stowed away in a crawl space or something. He's been dismembered or whatever. And then all of a sudden the doorbell rings right at the moment where he's just
screaming at
everybody.
everybody.
He's screaming at everyone. It's a very awkward scene. They're just finishing dinner. Doorbell rings, and it's this guy, and it turns out, he had to go do something.
Yeah.
And then came back. So there's a lot of these false starts into thinking, okay, here's the point where he's going to be proven right, and then it goes in the other direction. So that was the thing that stood out to me, Kent. I kept watching this going, why doesn't this guy and his girlfriend just leave? Why don't they just leave? Because there's so many awkward moments. You mentioned the kind of the truth or dare game they were playing.
Yeah.
Before it even got before you got scared or it got scary, there were enough moments for if I was in that situation, I'd just be like, I don't want to be here.
So they locked the doors early.
Yeah, they locked the doors early. He notices that there's been changes to the old house, that there's bars on the windows, but then they show the creepy video.
Yeah, the cult video.
The cult video, which is not introduced as a cult video, but it shows these people hanging around this woman who is dying. And
she dies.
And she dies.
On the video.
And it's like they want to show this before a dinner party.
The look on everyone's face is priceless after
and so
that.
I spent the first hour and 15 minutes going, why don't you just freaking leave, people?
Yeah.
And then it got really good.
Well, they kind of, I mean, again, yes, if we're in that situation, we're going to be like, let's get the hell out of here. This is weird. But they did kind of try to answer that by that one woman leaving early on and just showing kind of how hard it was for them to leave. Even though they weren't at the time being forced to stay, they were very good at trying to explain, like, no, relax, it's fine. So they kind of tried to, like, I think, attack that idea of because I'm sure there were a lot of viewers that were, why doesn't everyone just leave? That's a huge plot hole. I can see where they tried to make it
she
like that
definitely
wasn't
died, right?
Yeah. I like that about the movie too, that they
you never
didn't
know.
just tie up all of the ends.
Yeah.
They kind of just left you like the door that was all of a sudden missing in the theater. I'd like to know what happened or why that's not there. Do they have some weird like sex cave or something now that they have hidden or something? We'll never know, but it's kind of cool that you see these things, but you don't really get to know. It leaves your mind kind of wondering what was going on in that house.
So, Kent, what did you think?
What did I think? Well, two things. Right. First off, I will respond to what you said about leaving. There's a great old Eddie Murphy routine about haunted house movies.
Yes.
And it's like Do you ever see any black people in those movies? No, because they leave.
Well, outside of the ex-husband's girlfriend, she was the only black person in the film.
That's so that was I texted this to Stibbs. When we said that last week, I thought I've not seen that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sat down on Monday night, since there was no Monday night football, to watch the movie. And about 5 minutes in, I went, I've seen this movie before. And so I paused it and went back and looked. And it premiered at South by Southwest in 2015. Sure. And then I went, oh, yeah, I saw that on the night I got there. I didn't have anything to do. And it was actually playing right in the convention center. So I just walked in and watched it. So seeing that movie twice, think about it for a minute. If you know where the movie goes, then watching it the second time, it loses some of that tension, but you also see how they cleverly wrote it together, to make him seem like he's either crazy or complete, or something really bad's going to happen, but also how all the other characters are kind of, what is the right way to put this? Each of them represents something almost, right? The ex-wife is one thing, even the more minor ones they bring an element to it that makes it both, they seem like real people in a way, but they're not. Each of them has some sort of little twisted edge to them that adds to the story. And I didn't notice that, or I don't remember noticing that the first time. But again, once you know where it's going, it does lose some of that tension of what's going on, because you know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, I thought that the reveal of he was right the whole time, I thought that was really well done, where the character's like, she's not breathing.
Yeah.
And then it's like, get whatever. And it's like, no, her. And it's the other woman whose boyfriend hadn't been there the whole night. And suddenly you look over at her. She's the only one who had taken a drink. She's poisoned. I thought that reveal was really, really well done.
Well, and they did a good job because by then, for me at least, I was pretty sure he was right. Yeah. Even after Choi showed up, you saw enough of like, there's something crazy that's going to happen. Yeah. So right before that happened, he grabs that random woman and shoves her into that thing, and you think that he has killed her.
Yes.
So the movie, it grabs you into the opposite direction of thinking like, oh crap, he is way wrong.
He's about to go to jail.
Just murdered somebody, and this is wild. And so you're on the opposite end of thinking that, and then all out of nowhere, you're right. The reveal of she's not breathing in the moment that they're trying to wake her up, and then turning the camera is just this huge aha. Even though I already thought that was the case, this huge aha, like, oh, here we go, and then everything receives from there and gets wild.
So that's beautifully written if you think about it.
Yep.
Whoever wrote that had a real smart, and writing that screenplay, that's a visual write. That's not writing a dialogue or a narrative. No. It's coming up with that absolute shot.
We have to show this scene.
That's a wordless scene in a sense. When it switches over and they say, she's not breathing, and then that camera goes bang over to her. That's part of screenwriting that is, people don't, I don't think incorporate unless you think about it a little bit. Screenwriting is not just writing the dialogue. It's also figuring out how it's going to work in a visual sense. And that some of those things really worked in this movie. I think I want to point out, I guess, that the movie was directed by Karen Kusara, I think is how you say her name. And she is the person that did that girl fight movie 15, 20 years ago with Michelle Rodriguez. It's a great movie. She also did a movie called Aeon Flux that I liked. Not very many other people did.
I remember that movie. Yeah.
She did that, and then she's got maybe one other, but her movies all have she's a master of developing tension in a movie. I mean, all of her movies have that in a different way, right? Different sense. Girl Fight is not at all like this movie, but it has that same tension about, will she be able to fight? Will she win? Will she, what's going to happen to her because she's violating all these sort of cultural and gender norms by being a boxer and those kind of things. So I think that to me is the kind of at the core of the movie beyond the plot, so to speak, right? This is a movie that's about tension.
Yes.
And it was done,
a lot of tension.
And it was done well, because it's really easy to have corny tension in a thriller horror movie where you would laugh at it with the dun 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 and like all the horrible. They did a really good job of making it believable, and just out of nowhere, I just realized like I am literally on the edge of my seat, and I didn't even remember moving. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the only time I laughed, I think, like really hard was, so John Carroll Lynch is the actor that I was thinking of. He was in Zodiac. He was also, I forgot, Marge's husband, I believe is what's her name, in Fargo. When he's
a very good actor.
He's awesome. When he tells the story about killing his wife, and it's just something like, and then I punched her and she died. Yeah. And I just like, I laughed because it was like the delivery of that whole story. Cause then it's like, wait, what?
You're just like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I loved it.
Imagine watching this movie on the big screen.
Oh, I know.
60 or 70 other people. And that it was even more effective there than at watching it at home, because of that whole, everybody's in that same,
and there weren't, you mentioned John Carroll Lynch. I didn't recognize any of the other actors in this.
Well, the new husband, he was on Thrones. He was Daenerys.
He was.
I recognized him.
Oh, okay, yeah. I guess he was.
Other than that, though, yeah, I agree with you. I didn't know.
But I think
this is a 2015 picture.
Yeah.
So Lynch was probably the only actor that anybody knew anything about.
Yeah.
And I tell you what that does for a picture. Beyond it does two things. One is the actors don't bring any baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tom Hanks shows up in the movie, 99% chance he's the good guy.
Yep.
Right? So you don't bring that preconceived notion about the actor. But the other thing, not having a bunch of big name actors does, budget goes way down.
Yeah, this was $1 million budget.
Wow.
And the $1 million is, you can make a movie for $1 million if you're not paying some actor 10, 12, $15 million.
That's right.
That's how a movie like this gets made, because you're not paying the big above the line costs. I think I've said this before. That's the studio movie accounting. Above the line is what you pay the actors, basically, and below the line is the actual production costs.
Did you like the ending?
I'm happy you said that, Stibbs, because I wanted to ask, and I wanted to make a quick comparison if I can. And I'm going to spoil another movie. The movie Us, that came out a few years ago by Jordan Peele, his second movie. I felt in a way that the end was like the halfway point of Us, when you realize that this is happening in all these other houses around the entire country. Or in that movie, it was around the whole world. Yeah. In this movie, it's around the neighborhood. So I wish that there would have been just a little bit more, because the payoff is so short at the end when you realize, oh my gosh, this is happening everywhere. So in a way, I like it because it leaves it ambiguous. On the other hand, it's like, I would love to see more of what goes on next.
I'm normally lean into the ambiguous kind of ending and leaving it up for interpretation. And it usually leaves more room for discussions like this, which is what I enjoy. But yeah, I thought it was a cool idea. I remember when he lit that lantern, I thought, so the whole time things were going down, I thought he was signaling people, I guess, but I thought he had signals like help. So the whole time things were going on, I kept telling myself, are more people going to show up, or is there some monster that's going to show up at the end or something like that? And then you kind of forget about the lantern after all the crazy crap that happens. And yeah, I thought it was a really cool way to end it and see how many houses that this cult and this idea has infiltrated into this neighborhood. And
don't get any ideas.
Yeah, Taylor in the chat says I drink Josh's Kool-Aid.
Yeah. It's like a rich neighbor. So it's like
I believe it's in the Hollywood Hills.
That view was
people that fall for this thing, like it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And part of the reason you didn't see anything more of that is this is $1 million movie that they shot in somebody's house.
You couldn't take it anywhere. Yeah.
No.
I mean, that very well might have been shot in the director's house or a producer's house, right? Because this is basically a movie shot in one house, right?
Yep.
How many scenes
over the course of just
take
one
place
evening,
outside that house?
Yeah, there's no daylight scenes. It's just one evening.
Even the flashbacks are at the house.
All
They're
in
at the
the same
kitchen.
house.
They're at the backyard. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. So it's The Invitation. If you want to see it, it is streaming on Netflix.
It's only an hour and 40.
I recommend it. I enjoyed it.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
It was good. It was good.
And the baffling thing to me is it didn't get much theatrical distribution.
No.
Maybe because it was so low budget and so indie and nobody recognized it. But I thought when I remember seeing it at South by Southwest thinking this thing might turn into be some kind of a little cult hit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Emphasis on cult.
Uh-huh.
All right. So I really wanted to do the new Denzel, almost said Denzel Mahoney.
Got basketball in the brain.
Denzel Washington is in a new film called The Little Things that's going to be premiering. It's one of these big releases that are coming out simultaneously on HBO Max in the theaters, but it debuts literally next Friday. So we'll have to hold that to another time. But there was another film. It's streaming on Amazon Prime. It's an Amazon original that I've been rather interested in. And it is a fictionalized account of 4 incredible individuals, including Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke. It's called One Night in Miami.
Oh, I've heard about this movie.
It's about a fictionalized account.
Just came out, right?
Yes.
Came out last Friday.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I'd like to try that. One Night in Miami. It's an Amazon original, streaming now on Prime.
And I just wrote about it today. So
awesome.
So I'm not going to say anything now. We'll wait until next week.
We will wait until next week in the movie club. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week, Kent. Thanks again, as always, and we'll look ahead to next week and One Night in Miami.
It sounds good. I think you guys will enjoy the movie.
Awesome.
Sweet. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Kent.
Love that period of history.
Yeah.
Later, Kent.
There he is, Kent Wogamont of the Lincoln Journal-Star.
Yeah, Taylor says, I drink Josh's Kool-Aid. Yeah, I like the murder story, not because of the murder. Just the delivery of it was so funny. He just kept talking and talking and talking. He's like, oh, is he going to actually murder her? Oh, he did.
Yep, he sure did.
All right, cool.
Yep, he did it. All right, more to come. Predictions.
One Beer Friday.
And One Beer Friday.
One Beer Friday.
On 1620 The Zone.